Okay, so good evening. I'm going to start with today's class. You're going to be joined, okay? So I'm going to be waiting for you. But again, I'm going to start it. I'm going to mention, well, the things that we did already. We were reviewing the tenses. We were practicing, right, the differences between, the simple past and the present perfect, right? When you say I went, I have gone. We mentioned ideas for the past perfect when we work with tag questions, right? So we were working on that. Now we have to continue working. We have to keep working and go to the next lesson. And that lesson is going to be infinitives. Okay, I'm mainly going to just mention that. Um, then perhaps when you join, I'm going to ask if there are questions about those two lessons that we got to see. And again, we should good to go to the next one that will be this one. Okay, infinitives. It's just the way, right, we have to conjugate the actions after some verbs, for example, or the way in which we can use this form of verbs, that is um, 2 plus the base form of the verb. And I believe, yes, that actually we took a look at this. So if we go back to where we were, yes, we practice this idea. We're going to apply this. Yeah, actually, we already covered this one. Okay, yes, and we got to see purpose and everything. Great. Okay, so I thought that we didn't, all right, work with this presentation, but yes, I think my memory is not working good. Now we need to go to passive voice actually. So also let's mention that. So we have tenses review. We got to see all the tenses, mainly, mainly the ones about past because we had doubts about it. Tag questions, we practice a lot of tenses again to recognize auxiliaries to know when to use, right? Do, does, did, have, has as auxiliaries, and then make them tag questions. And infinitives, we learned, right, that they can be used as subjects, but they are very formal, not the best option. We can use them after verbs, right? We have some verbs, and after them, we have to use the infinitive form of that verb. Then we have let's say, yes, like requests, right, in a certain way, or expectations that you have for certain people, right? It means again that you can say things like, I need you to help me with this, right? I need you to help me with this. Infinitive with that type of structure. And also purpose, right? We got to see that we use, okay, I'm taking a look at the font just in case. All right, I'm going to reply just in case. Okay, just give me 1 second. All right, you're just here. I was replying also on the phone, but you're here, so we can start then with the main lesson. So Gladys, I was working on a review. Okay, I was mentioning what we did I was trying to, again, highlight the main things that we have to remember about the tenses, about simple past, about present perfect, about tag questions, recognizing auxiliaries, then the infinitives, right? To use them after some verbs, to use them with other people, like I need you to help me with this, and to use them as purpose, right? I study or I'm studying English in order to, I don't know, right? Get into college, in order to travel to the United States, and so on and so forth. So all those are the ones that we already covered. And today we have to start with passive voice. So I don't know if you have any questions before starting with passive voice, because we're going to try to work with this one, passive voice, and quantifiers today. Let me know, please, if you have questions about everything we've done these days, Gladys.
No, I don't have questions.
Okay, so let's try to see the structure of passive voice. Let's wait until it's ready. Okay, now I think the document is ready. In the chat, you can find the link to go to the document we use to write examples. Now let's see, okay? Let's see how much we know about passive voice. Now, we're not going to read that. We're going to analyze this that we got here, Gladys. Let's read these two examples, please. There are two examples, right, with Shakespeare. Let's read the two of them, please.
Hamlet was written by Shakespeare.
And the first one that is up there, this one.
Shakespeare wrote Hamlet.
Good. So which one is active voice and which one is passive voice, Gladys? What do you say? Which one do you think is active? What do you think is active and what is passive here? All right. So when you think of active,
I cannot hear you, sorry.
okay, I don't know why. Why? Is there any type of interference? Let me know, please, what happens. Or is it because of
Yeah.
the
No, I think
volume?
it's my air.
Okay.
Well, I would try to hear you just that.
Okay. Okay. Yes, it's weird. So let me know, please, because it's important to interact. So I was asking, which one is active and which one is passive? What do you know about that?
Um, Active and passive.
In these two sentences, which one do you feel that it's active voice?
The
And
first one is passive and the second active.
okay, let's analyze now. If I give you the explanation, active voice is when someone does the action, someone performs an action, and passive is when an object or something receives the action. So you say that the first one is passive. So who is receiving the action in the first one? What do you say?
Who is receiving the action?
If it's passive, then we must have the first thing receiving the action. So in the first case, is Shakespeare receiving an action or doing an action?
Doing an action.
Exactly, right? In the past, so it is active, right? So if you do the action, it's active voice. So Shakespeare wrote Hamlet, that's active voice in past. And if you analyze number two, well, not number, but the second one, Hamlet was written by Shakespeare, that is passive. Why? Because Hamlet is receiving an action, right? It was written by whom? By Shakespeare. Okay, now we need to understand how we can change from active to passive. But first, let's read this, please, Gladys. Active voice.
The active voice is the normal voice, the one that we use most of the time. In the active Voice, the object, receive the action of the verb.
Good. Now, the short example, please, is divided in subject, verb, and object.
Cats eat mice.
Mice, exactly. So cats eat mice is active. How can you change this to passive? How can you give me a passive sentence with this idea? You have to invert the things. How do you do it?
Mice are eaten by cats.
Correct, right? Very simple, very clear, and you got it, right? That's great. Perfect. Mice are eaten by cats. Passive voice start in the way that you said, right? So we're not going to read it. It's less common, but mice are the ones receiving the action now. They are eaten by cats. So this is the formula to any passive voice. So I'm going to give you some examples, and then you're going to try to give me some. But these examples, please, Gladys, now just by speaking.
We don't usually use this, right? Like when we speak, there's no like way to use that like in verse.
Yes, I mean, it's possible, but in
Or when
formal
did you
situations,
when did you use that?
I mean, when you are talking about, for example, the country or the politics in your country, okay, you can say, hey, I think the US, right, was selected to be part of the new committee. Okay, the US was selected, that's passive voice, right?
Yeah,
Then you say, yeah,
but
tell me.
when I try to translate it to Spanish, in Spanish is like but talk, but I don't know in English how it works. That was my confusion sometimes.
Okay, no, in English, this is, I mean, it's less common as we said in the previous explanation right here. It says, right, the
Mhm.
passive voice is less common, but in English, it actually is not that it's not used. It's used in conversations, it's used in writing, but of course, active voice is much more common, right? You are always using active voice. I need to do this, right? The university, um, I don't know, right? Published something yesterday, or I don't know, someone said something else. So active, 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 active. But again, examples, even for you, Gladys, if you apply for a job, you can say, hey, look, I was selected for that job. You don't, it's very weird. Actually, there, you don't use active voice. You don't say, hey, look, the company, right, selected me. You don't say that. In English, you say, I was selected, right? Because they well, right? Believed that you were the best option over there. All right, so that detail is going to be important to take into account. And we're going to go to the next part to work with some examples. Okay, I'm going to go to the formula. All right, here. Now, Gladys, I'm going to say some details for you. I'm going to give you some ideas, and you will give me the passive voice of those ideas. Right? So, for example, and then you give me your own examples. How do you say this? Okay, let's say that Brazil, all right, created a new vaccine for COVID. All right, Brazil created a new vaccine for COVID. What is the passive voice for that one, Gladys?
Of which one, sir?
Brazil created a new vaccine for COVID.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes, Brazil created a new vaccine for COVID.
A new vaccine was created by Brazil.
By Brazil, yes. And again, but you don't need to say by Brazil. You in conversations, you just say, "Hey, did you know that a new vaccine was created?" Right? You don't say, "Did you know that Brazil created a new vaccine?" That is okay, but sometimes passive voice is even the better option. All right. Then, very simple ideas, but in different tenses. I'm going to use the one that we were practicing, present perfect, right? So this is the one. The principal, right, has been um, writing. Okay, the principal has been writing new rules for our school. Okay, the principal has been writing the new rules for our school. How would it be in this case, Gladys?
Sorry, I'm trying to connect my AirPods because I cannot hear you, so just give me 1 second.
Yes, of course. I'll wait.
Could you talk now, please?
Yes, of course. So, can you hear me better now?
No, my AirPods are not working. I don't know why, but yeah, it's okay.
Okay, well, that's bad, but let's try to work. I hope it's possible to work. So I'm going to repeat the idea. All right, it was this. All right, let me repeat. The principal has been writing the new rules for our school, right? The principal has been writing the new rules for our school. So how could the passive voice for that one be? It's a little bit more complex. I think I cannot hear you, Gladys. It's on, but I don't hear anything. It's like your microphone is on, but I cannot hear a sound from your. Yeah, no, it's still like that. I don't hear anything. It's like you're muted, but your computer shows that it's on. Yeah, no, weird. No, I cannot. I don't know why. I mean, it's like there's no sound at all. Okay, try to see what it can be, because again, it's like the device that you're using. I don't know if you're using now the microphone that is integrated on your laptop, but I cannot hear anything, anything. I know that you're speaking because it's moving. All right, so let's see if now it's working.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you now. I don't know what happened. It was like you were, well, using a device that was not connected because it was on, but now I can hear you. Great. So I don't know if you have the answer for the example. I'm going to repeat one more time the idea, and I hope that you can also hear me, Gladys. Can you hear me more or less? Yeah? Okay. So the idea was the following. The principal has been writing the new rules for our school. What is the passive voice for all that idea?
The rules have been graded by the principal.
Okay, yes, we're close to that one. Let's analyze if that's everything we need. We're going to write that. You have the link. Perhaps you don't have the link yet. Link is in the chat once again to go to our document. Okay, so we have to pay attention to all the details, even when it's continuous, right? For example, this is the idea, right? The principal has been writing. So let's write down below, please, Gladys, over there, your response, okay? The passive voice, what do you believe it is? And again, we have to pay attention to mainly the tense that we have.
Okay.
Now, let's analyze. Actually, again, this is tricky. And this is, as you said, right? When do we use? We can use, this is something that you perhaps are not going to use in speaking, but it's just for you to know rules, okay? Once again, we finish with this example and we practice something that is more common. But again, I'm replying, but why? Because the answer has to be different. Now, what tense is this? That one, Gladys. How do you call to that tense? I don't know if you remember.
Sorry, what?
Yes. What tense are we in, Gladys? Is this the present perfect, the simple past? What tense are we in here?
Present perfect. No, past perfect.
It's good. No, it's present perfect. If you see have or
Oh,
has, it's present perfect, right? Good. Now, it means that in your passive voice, Gladys, we also have to be in the present perfect. Okay, the rule says that the active voice has to be the same tense as the passive voice in any example. Okay, in any example. So, how do you change then your passive voice, Gladys, to present perfect? Because was is simple past. Okay, now we're getting closer. Good. Now, one more thing. Well, two more things. The principal is singular, right? The principal. But the new rules for our school, that's plural, right? So we don't say has. What is the plural form of has? Is have, right? The main thing. So we need to say have. That's the second thing. Okay, so the new rules for our school have been written by our principal. Now, that's common, but if you want to be precise in grammar, and again, this is mainly for writing, you want to take a test, you need to be sure that you know these rules to even use passive voice, because if you want to write essays, you need to know how to use passive voice. There are exercises in the TOEFL that you need to use with, for example, okay, this phrase was said by this author, all right, or that was stated by. So those are passive voice ideas, and you use that a lot in writing for essays. Okay, so in the TOEFL, it's very important to know this. So I'm mentioning that because here then we need to practice. Here, this is going to be have. Why? Because the new rules, it's plural. Okay, so it's like they have been. Now, writing says that this is continuous. The verb to be has to be in the same tense that this is. All right? So you need one more verb to be that is in the continuous form. And again, this is what you said. This is one detail that you don't use in speaking, but you need to know for writing. So if here you're going to have, all right, so the new rules for our school have been written by the principal. And again, we don't need to know that one. Here they are going to correct that because it's not common and it's not something that we use a lot. But that is going to be the passive voice if we want to have the exact idea as this one. All right, it's like saying I'm going to write in the chat, okay, like here's the short version. Okay, so that's the meaning. In the chat, you can find the exact meaning of this with be with ing also. But again, that's one exception that we need to know just when we are working for writing. Now, I want to go to the next part. This is a set of examples that are in passive voice. So let's read please the possibilities, Gladys. Let's read all these examples that are in passive voice.
I am employed by Apple. You will be working at 6. It will have been finished by then. We have been notified by the head office. You are being transferred next week. They will be paid.
Thank you. Now these are common ones. You use this a lot in English. We have been notified. You say that, right? You don't say head office notified us about that. No, you say we have been notified. You say, right, I'm employed by a company, right? You don't say actually, right, Apple, right, employed me. You just say, I am employed by Apple. I'm employed by a certain, right, company. So that's passive voice. We use passive voice, and we're going to try to apply this knowledge in some writing that we are going to have. Now, I'm going to show you some other details, but again, this is going to be the last part of practicing and understanding the way we use it. Then practicing is going to be the way to be sure that this is clear. Let's read please also this, Gladys. Peter buys a car equals to what? So let's read active voice and passive voice to see how they are related.
Peter buys a car. A car is bought by Peter. Peter bought a car. A car was bought by Peter. Peter has bought a car. A car has been bought by Peter. Peter will buy a car. A car will be bought by Peter.
Okay, thank you. That's again, you see different tenses, then you have to use the same tense, right? If it's present, the verb to be present. If it's past, past. If it's present perfect, present perfect. If it's future, then you use future. Now, here you see also examples for when to use passive voice, right? And it's when you want to put emphasis on the receiver of the action, Gladys. Here, you don't usually say Lee Harvey, right? Oswald killed President Kennedy. You say, what's the important person here? President Kennedy. So you mentioned that at the beginning, right? President Kennedy was killed by someone. Or you just say, President Kennedy was killed. And that's, again, pretty common. My wallet has been stolen. You can say that, all right? And again, it's very, very common. Our house is being painted. It's common, not that much, but we use that a lot. Why? Because you don't say who's painting your house. All right, usually you don't say. You don't say, hey, this company is painting my house. No, you say that your house is being painted. All right, then I'm paid weekly. You don't say who pays you, right? You don't say my boss pays me. You don't say my company pays me. You say that you are paid. All right, and again, perhaps there are differences between English and Spanish, but in English, these are very common ways to express these ideas. Okay, I'm going to read a couple more. Then you're going to try, you're going to write ideas in a paragraph with the rules that we know for punctuation and using passive voice in the ways that you believe are better for you. Okay, now it says passengers are reminded to fasten their seat belts. That's a possibility. The emergency service can be called by dialing 999. That's another example for passive voice. All right. The last one's over here. Let's read this one. Okay, mistakes. This is the most important perhaps here. Mistakes were made and unfortunately never rectified. So that's also with passive voice. When you don't mention who did the action, you use passive voice. And here you have the sources. Check for more information and more details. Now, I saw that because of the examples that you were giving me, right, except for the last one because it was one a little bit special, are clear. So we know how to use passive voice. And this is what we are going to do. We're going to try to give ideas not only with passive voice, but we're going to use them a couple of times in a paragraph. All right, in a paragraph. And you can use these examples as a reference, Gladys. You can use present, you can use future, you can use past, present perfect, right? You can use many tenses. But I need you to write a paragraph telling me about your situation over there. All right. For example, where are you working? You can say that you're employed by a specific company, right? You can say that you are given instructions by someone or anything that it's related to your activities over there. Using, of course, active voice also, but we're going to try to use at least three examples, not examples, three ideas in passive voice in our paragraph. Okay, so you're going to write one entire paragraph about your situation there with active voice, but at least three ideas in passive voice, one in present, one in past, and one in future. All right, if you have questions for how you can build that well structure, passive voice structure, you can look at the formula here or you can ask me. So let me know please if you have questions before we can start with the writing exercise.
Just can you write what sentence I need to write, please?
Yeah, one more time, what sentences you need to write?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no instruction for that, but I'm going to write the main instruction for what you have to do. Okay, so you have to write one paragraph. Okay, so instructions. Okay, so you have first one paragraph, at least. All right, three passive.
It's a paragraph, like about what?
About your situation there, Gladys. All right, I was telling you, right? You work in a certain place, so you can tell me where you work. You don't have to say the name, right? It's just an example about your working activities, about your, I don't know, how you get entertained over there, the activities that you have with friends or with people, anything. Your situation there in a general perspective. Okay, it can be about job, about friends, about college, about anything that you have over there. All right, so let me write it over here. In the US. Then here. So at least three passive voice sentences. Okay, those are the only instructions. Let's have the 3 to 4 minutes. We check, and also the idea, perhaps this is the third instruction, we have to use these correct rules, right? Or for complete ideas. You have semicolon, you have periods, you have commas, you have fanboys, or you have some transitional words. So you can try to apply those rules in your paragraph. Okay, so use rules are all right, or that were explained, let's say directly. To start with the timer, again, if you get to have more questions, please you're going to let me know. I'm going to start the timer, and in 4 minutes, or when you finish, we check. And I was forgetting, sorry. I'm going to start again. Here, remember that one of them has to be in present, the other one in past, and one of them in future. Okay, I'm talking about the three passive voice sentences. All right, so one present and past, right? And the last one in future. You can do it in any order that you want. Okay, so those were 4 minutes. We're going to see how you were doing, and we're going to again work with that. So finish your last idea, please, and then you can read what you got today, Gladys.
Okay. It says, since I came to the United States, I have been working and studied at the same time. I have been taught by experts and I learned how to do any position at different store location. My friends and I have traveled a lot to different cities and we had fun. And Beacon City has been created 15 years ago by the government.
Okay, thank you. Now let's give some feedback, all right? Everything seems to be great. Since I came, that's the beginning of something. You have the comma, great, with the periods. Now, here, if you use the words with ed, if you say worked and studied, that's like passive voice. But you don't need passive voice there, right? Because that's active. You have been doing that action, right? Working and studying. So you need actions, and actions are going to be ing. All right, we need that ed only with passive voice, right? But as this is not passive voice, you need what? One more time, not ed, ing, because you are doing that action, right? You were not receiving that, you were doing it. So you said, I have been working at the same time, right? So again, I'm going to mark, as you said, the corrections over there, working and studying. Okay, at the same time. Good, I have been. Now, teach is irregular, right? What is the past participle of teach? Is taught, all right? You say taught. So I've been taught by experts because teach is not irregular. And I learned good how to do any position at different stores, location, all right? My friends and I have traveled a lot to different cities, and this is the optional comment that we mentioned, but it's always a good idea to use it because it's a new idea, even though it's the same subject, and we had fun, right? Here you have this one. Brigham City has been created 15 years ago by the government, and that's it. Okay, those are my only details over there. I'm going to mark also this. I don't know if you have questions. You've used these passive voice ideas, both in like past, right? Because you have present perfect and present perfect. So it's good. But I'm going to ask you questions now, just speaking. But I need to know if you have questions about these writing corrections. Gladys, let me know, please.
No, it's so good. I just have difficulty to trying to think in passive voice and do it. Like I don't have as many ideas as present, simple present or something like that.
Okay, good.
And
But
it's
it's good.
because I'm not used to use it. Like, yeah, I need to practice that, especially present perfect.
All right, yes, but again, you're doing it good. We didn't see the present perfect continuous yet, and this is the present perfect continuous. So when we see the lesson, you're going to practice this even more. All right, so again, it's good. Just the mistakes with ing, the past of teach, and that's it. Everything else seems to be great. Now, let's try to give this to finish this lesson and go to the next one. Gladys, at least the introduction. Future, how can you give me a passive voice idea in the future? What do you say? What is something that you are going to receive or someone is going to receive in the future that you can use with will? Anything that comes to your mind. And I'm going to show you the structure, right? The examples over here. Here you have two examples.
The iPhone 15 will be performs. That's the correct word. Like
Launched, perhaps. You want to say that
launched
it
by
will be,
Apple.
yes. Uh-huh. Yep,
Launched by Apple.
launched. Exactly, right? So as launch is a regular, you only add ed, and that's past participle, right? Great. Now one in present, okay? One very simple in present, because you have present perfect, but present perfect is past, right? What idea can you give me in present? What is something that you are receiving in the present, Gladys? Or again, like the example that you gave me with an iPhone or any object.
In the present.
Yes, in the present.
Mm, mm, they are. I don't know. We are. We are being helping by my family.
Okay, good. Just the verb. The main verb has to be in the past participle. Your main verb is help, right? What is the past of help? Helped.
Helped.
Exactly.
We are being helped by my family.
Yes. And again, I'm going to write the idea in Spanish in the chat, and you tell me if you feel that that's common because it's correct. All right, and it sounds good. We, all right, are, sorry, the translation, right? Okay, so that's the idea, right, that you're giving me. And again, perhaps it's not common, perhaps just the first part you can say, right, we're being helped, right? We are being helped. And that's it. It's also common, and it's more common, Gladys, when you don't want to mention who. Okay, so that by is optional. And when you don't want to say who did it, or who is doing that action, or who will do that action, then you don't say it. You just say who's receiving the action or what is receiving the action. All right, so let me know, please, again. The practice or the idea here is that because of the time and everything, I have to show you like this, the basics. If you have questions, of course, I'm going to help you out with that. I'm going to give you the introduction, right? We have 9 more minutes, a little bit more for, well, before the end of the class, and I'm going to give the introduction to the next lesson. But I need to know if you have questions, specific questions. First, only about the passive voice, Gladys. Let me know, please.
Always I need to use by something, by. That's when you recognize that it's a passive voice, right?
Good, exactly. That's correct. But not always. And not also because of that. You recognize because of two things. Because of this by, but also because you always see the verb to be next to a verb in the past participle. It only happens in the passive voice. Okay? It only happens in the passive voice. If you see am, be, been, being, be one more time, and you see a verb in the past, it's passive voice. Okay? There is not a chance that is something else. And by is optional, Gladys. As I told you, you don't have to use by. Why? Because sometimes you don't want to say who did it, right? You can simply say, for example, hey, I was accepted, right? I was accepted. And you know that you were accepted at university, for example, right? You were selected or you were chosen. So you don't need to say bye. Okay, that's a short response over there, Gladys. What do you say? Other questions, comments that you might have?
Not for now.
Okay, good. Again, if you get to have questions, please let me know. We are going to go to the introduction of the next presentation that is a very short and common one. Okay, let me open it and we talk about it. Okay, so this is a very simple lesson. We talked about, I believe, nouns that we can count, we cannot count. I don't remember if we did, but let me ask you, all right? For example, what is something or what are things that you don't count in English, Gladys? Things that are uncountable, that you cannot count.
Milk.
Milk, right? And it's a liquid. What else?
Mm, hair.
Oh, one more time, please.
Hair.
Okay.
Hair.
All right. Yes. It depends. Yes. Hair, like the idea of the right the group of hair that you might have. Yes. And sometimes it can be countable. It depends, right? Not most, some of the uncountable nouns can become countable in some situations, right? For example, fish as food or as just the animal is uncountable, right? But you know that when you talk about types of fish, you can mention fishes, right? So it can be uncountable and it can be countable. Then let me think, hair is another one. If you talk about just hair in general, it is uncountable. But if you get to have just a hair that you see, right, that you always get in a screen, you can say hair as countable or 2 pieces of hair. But let's work with quantifiers. Quantifiers are going to let us count or give an idea of things that we can or we cannot count, right? Express the quantity of an object in this. We're going to start with the basic ones. For example, what is the difference between a little and a few, Gladys? What do you say? When do you use a little and when do you use a few?
A little when it's small?
Mhm. And a
No, I
few?
don't know.
It's good. A little is small. A few is also a small quantity. Now, if I mention this, we're talking about countable and uncountable. Which one do you think we use for countable, and which one do you think that we use for uncountable? A little, a few. Just both of them.
Uncountable, I think a little, and countable, few.
Great. Give me please one example using a little with something uncountable. You can say milk, for example, right? But use it in a sentence. What idea can you give me, Gladys, using a little plus something uncountable?
Um, I just want a little piece of cake.
Okay, yes. In that one, did you analyze? You're talking a piece, so you're already counting that, but it's valid because a little is also for the idea of a piece of something. Okay, what about something direct over there, Gladys, without any other quantifier like piece or something like that? Just the uncountable now. What do you say? One more example with the quantifier just right next to a little.
Um, mm, my time is a little busy.
Okay, a little busy. Busy is a type of activity that works in this case as something uncountable. Yes. What about a few? A few is then for something countable. What example can you give me using a few?
I like a few grapes.
Okay, okay, that can be counted. It can be separated. That's one. One more, please.
Mm, I will eat a few bananas in my breakfast.
Okay, yes, correct, right? Anything that you can count, you can use it with quantifiers, okay? And here you have some of those. Many and much, they have the same difference, right? Many for countable, much for uncountable. All right, so again, let's try to work, and a lot of is for both countable and uncountable. So, what is something that you have in in a big way? I mean, that you can say many. What is something that you possess that is a lot for you, Gladys?
Can I use where I can use many?
Yes, something that is a big
I
quantity. Mhm.
I have many different shoes.
Okay, many different shoes. Yes, you have a modifier besides the many, right word. What about much? Something that you have much.
I will be much better than yesterday.
Okay, yes, you're describing something that it's possible to use with much. And a lot of. One idea with a lot of, and you can use countable or uncountable. Any of those.
A lot of my friends like sushi.
All right, there you go. And with this, and we have one more detail, and we're going to finish with those things. All right. Actually, no, you already worked with me with a little of you. Okay, you know. A little for uncountable, a little milk, a little time, a little patience. You can say that, right? I
Okay.
have a little patience. I have a little time left, right? You can say a little time. Anything that is uncountable can be used with a little, anything countable with a few. You've already gave me the examples with that, or given me the examples. Now, indefinite. Besides going there, all right, here, to finish the class is going to be the next one. So, some and any, Gladys. When do you use some and when do you use any in English?
Some and any.
Mhm.
Some for countable and any for uncountable.
All right. Some is for countable, but some is also for uncountable. All right. And actually, both of them, Gladys, both are for countable and uncountable. All right. Both work with both of them. For example, you can say, I have some friends, or you can say, I have some time. Right. So friends, countable, time, uncountable, and you can say some. But you also can say, I don't have any friends, countable, and I don't have any time left, uncountable, right? So actually, in my examples, I showed you the difference. What is the difference between some and any? When do you use them? What was different in my examples, the examples that I gave you?
Plural and singular?
Yes, but besides that, oh, did I use some in affirmative or in negative sentences?
Oh yeah. Negative with any.
Correct, right? So in most of the cases, some and any, they work with countable and uncountable, plural, singular, all right? In this case, you need plural, but they are written in some in affirmative sentences, any in negative sentences. So to finish, please, tell me something that you have, Gladys, something affirmative that you have, and try to use the quantifier some.
Mm, I have some t-shirts that I don't like.
Great. I have some t-shirts that I don't like. One more, the same please, affirmative with some, but this time with something uncountable.
Some of my friends are extrovert people.
Okay, but that's still countable, right? Some
Oh,
of my friends, right?
uncountable.
Now,
Some some fishes were died.
but in that one, if you want to use that as uncountable, then you have to mention that as the idea of collective. So you're only going to say some fish, and that's going to be
Some
uncountable.
fish.
Sunfish. Exactly. Sunfish. Good. Now, to finish, any. Give me two ideas with any, please, Gladys. One that is countable and one that is uncountable. And remember, they have to be negative.
I don't like any kind of soda.
Great. Kind of soda, it's like a group of thing, kinds of. That's going to be like countable over there. Okay, so that's example for countable. What about uncountable?
My sister doesn't have any kids. Oh, that's countable too, right?
Yes, that's countable. What could it be? Something uncountable.
Mm, I don't like any milk.
Any
That's
milk, right?
uncountable.
That's uncountable. Yes, again, sometimes it sounds weird. Sometimes it's better to use other words before those other words, right? But again, now it's just for practicing to make you see something that you know.
Few, few is for countable, right? No, a few is
Few,
for uncountable.
no, few is for countable. It was good. A few friends, a few ideas, a few books, a
Oh,
few
countable.
anything that is
And
countable.
a little is for uncountable.
Exactly. For example, you can say, I have a little patience, right? I have a little patience. It means that you are impatient, that you are not patient, or a little time,
Mm,
right? I have a little time to finish my tests. So
yeah.
there you don't have a lot of time.
Okay.
All right. So again, that's it. Look, the lesson for quantities is very short. Just that idea of using some words to use with countable or uncountable nouns. With that, we finish today, Gladys. You have other examples at the end of the presentation. Now, again, what I want to do first is just try to finish the presentation so that we can practice with some details for the TOEFL. All right, if that's possible, we are going to do it. I'm sending now the survey, Gladys, but I think you're I don't know if you can hear me now. Let me know, please, because I see that your camera stopped working. Can you hear me,
Can you
Gladys?
hear me? Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
now I do. Now we're finishing. Then let me send you, please. Let's do it directly. Today I'm going to send you two surveys. Okay, this is the first one, the first poll. Let's reply that first. And then you have one more because we are already in class number 4. This is the midterm, okay? This is halfway all right, the path that we have for the first course. And now
I'm
this is
just
the next
having problems with the internet because I'm going outside.
one. Okay, good. This one, please. This is the last one. Finish this one as well. And that's it. Thank you very much. I hope you have a good night, Gladys. And I'll see you tomorrow, please, at the same time. Okay?
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much.
Good night. Bye bye.